Is that better? Yeah. Right. Number 1, apologies for absence and substitutions.
We have received an apology from Councillor Valgugliami.
Number 2, minutes of the last meeting, pages 1 to 4. Number 3, declarations of interest. Number 4, questions on notice pursuant to council procedure, Rule 38.
We have received no declarations or questions, Chairman.
Right, I'll say that again. The committee will formally receive and note for its information only the minutes of the meeting of the miscellaneous licensing subcommittee held on Friday the 26th of November 2021. So it's formally noted. Number 6, report of the Assistant Director Partnership, A1 Licensing Act, 2003, applications approved under delegated powers, pages 7 to 22. To report to the committee details of the licensing that have been approved under the delegated powers during the period of 25th of October 19 to January 22. Over to Michael, sorry.
Good evening, Chair and members. The first report is for your information only. It lays out the figures for the premises licences and the club premises certificates that have been delegated since the 25th of October 2019 to the 4th of January 22. And then it just lays out some figures on personal licences, your gambling licence and Hackney carriages.
Yes, Councillor Casey.
Officer, when a licence changed hand in a pub, who gives them the licence? At one time they used to come before the licence committee. Is it delegated? Are all the licences delegated in the pubs now?
When they change hands, they have to fill in an application form to do a transfer. That gets sent to the licensing authority and in consultation with Essex Police. Not for a transfer, no. No.
Oh, wait, getting back to number 6, that the members note that the contents of this report on number 6, what we've just said, could you note it? Go.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of things. One, would it be too onerous to inform the ward councillors when these licences are transferred? That's my first question.
It's not actually part of the requirement, but we certainly can do, as we do with the grants and variations. Obviously, councillors wouldn't be able to have any say in the actual transfer, but we can do that for information.
Yes, thank you. It's just that I'm aware, certainly from my ward, there are licensed premises here where there are other matters going on, and it certainly would have been interesting to have known that there was a change of licence. That would have been quite pertinent to other matters that were happening. Just a small query. Page 21, top of there you have Ardley Service Station, shown at Colchester Road, Ardley. Then you have Ardley South Service Station, same address, a couple of times. Just that I think you'll find Ardley South Service Station is actually on the A120. There are two different service stations.
Yeah, I believe that's correct. They would have been the addresses they've given us when the application went in.
Oh, that's all right then.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I notice we've got all the ones we've approved here. It's not so much a question, more of a thing for the future reference is how many licences off the top of your head have we refused over this time period? And would it be an idea to include those figures with this report next time round?
We could certainly include that in the next time round. Most of the applications, if there's objections, then would come in front of the committee. I haven't actually got the figures here at the moment for but we can have a look into that for you.
Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Chairman. With the taxi licences, obviously we've got the up-to-date ones in front of us as of January. Is there a reduction in the number of taxi drivers within the tendering district since the last report? Thank you.
I believe there is a slight decrease in the drivers, certainly in some of the vehicle numbers that they have been going down slightly since the pandemic. And also feedback from drivers is sort of saying that they're struggling to get new vehicles at the moment.
Any more questions? Tom? Number 7, report of Assistant Director Partnership A2 Hackney Carriage Fares, pages 25 to 34. It is listed 23, it starts at 25.
Thank you, Chair. The second report is following the consultation of the taxi fare increase, which was requested by the Tendering Taxi Meter Forum. That can be found on pages 25 to 35. Any taxi meter fare increases have to be agreed by this committee. The committee may remember on the 14th of October, the proposed increases were agreed for public consultation, and I can confirm that that consultation has gone out and now finished. And we've had 5 representations, and these can be found Appendix B of the report, pages 31 to 34. It's therefore recommended that the committee give consideration to the request for the increase of the fare scales and reconsider following the in light of the objections. Following that, if you do decide to go ahead with or without modification, it would be brought into operation 28 days following the decision. Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Coley.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. A couple of concerns, really, but we were originally contacted by the Taximeter Forum, which I can only assume represents rank and file taxi drivers within the district. And we received a request for a fare increase in August 2021. It's not actually put before us until October. We then made a decision to agree with what the request was. Now, I must admit, perhaps I just missed it myself, but I didn't quite understand what the consultation period was after we'd made that decision. I thought we'd made that decision and that was that.
So the actual requirement is to come to yourselves following the request from the Taxi Association. And then what we have to do, we have to go out and consult with the taxi trade and the public themselves, and then bring it in front of yourself just to either agree it or modify it as you see fit.
I suppose my concern is that here we are 5 months down the track and we haven't actually made a decision. I thought we had made one, but we obviously haven't.
Well, on our last decision, it had to go to consultation, didn't it, to the people to see what they say about it, the taxi drivers, the public, and it's on that why we're here now, isn't it?
That is correct. So you've got the 5 representations in front of you just for consideration. Should you wish to just carry on and agree what you had agreed on your last meeting with regards to the increase, then that's what we need to say today. If you want to take into consideration the other people's comments, then that's also what we need to look at today.
Okay. Councillor Clifton.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a quick question, because we've got some contradicting opinions in these objections. My first one for now is these rates that we approve, are they the standard set across the industry, or is that a maximum that a cabbie can charge? So we will say that this is the rate. We've got an independent operator here. She thinks she doesn't want to increase her prices. So can she charge under what we charge, or is that not allowed? Can I have some clarification, please?
They certainly can. They can charge lower. They just can't charge any higher than what is set.
Okay.
Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, obviously reading through this, the 5 that have come forward and obviously given their views, is it only 5 that can come forward to give us their views, or are there more members of the forum that can come forward to give us their opinions?
We wrote to all the taxi drivers, so they all had the opportunity to come forward. These 5 are just the 5 taxi drivers that have come forward to us.
So we could have had a lot more representation if taxi drivers wanted to come forward. There could have been a lot more response to this.
Indeed.
Because it is noted, I know on page 32, one of the taxi drivers has stated from their opinion, he's not been clearly publicised in the taxi news, not even received by post. So many of us missed the deadline for this support. This was for some of their financial support. So if they're sort of missing things, is it sent to them all individually, or is it just something that's put out in the taxi news? Thank you.
So we sent a taxi newsletter around to all the drivers on this occasion. With regards to what that taxi driver is referring to is money and grants available during the pandemic, which we as a service didn't actually get involved in. It was another department that was dealing with that.
Councillor Dan Casey.
That's the question of Michael. Michael, when it came to that last meeting, I was under the impression that we all sat around and took a vote and agreed an increase for the taxi drivers, not for 5, for the taxi drivers. That's what that was for there. And basically, I thought they were all having their increase. So basically what we're saying, nothing's happened since then, so we're going back and these people still haven't got an increase and paying all this money out of these taxi drivers. Is that correct?
That's correct. We had to go out to do a public consultation to today's meeting to make that final decision.
Councillor Anna Coley.
Response to a consultation, or is there generally a greater number of taxi drivers responding, or is this sort of par for the course?
This is part of the course, really. Previously, we only had 1 or 2
Right.
out of the 200-300 drivers we've got there.
Okay. So I guess each of these who are pretty articulate are speaking for their peers as well. I thought it was interesting that 4 out of the 5 were actually sort of approving it, except saying the 10p a mile isn't far enough, hasn't gone far enough. And 2 of them actually specified, I think one's 30p a mile would make life easier for them. And I think somebody else said 20. And I thought it occurred to me that as taxi drivers, they're not going to want to realistically price themselves out of the market, because then they'll all lose out. And I wondered if we should give serious consideration to perhaps the 20p extra per mile that 2 of them, I think, are suggesting. That's my response to the
Any
question.
Councillor Anna
Sorry.
Coley?
Yeah, thanks. I'm sort of a bit confused, really, because the decision we made, I thought, was reasonably clear. But we now have a selection of alternatives. And I don't know what's the most appropriate one, if any of them should be different than what we've already agreed. It just seems that this is an exercise of plucking some out of the air.
Well, the only thing I can say about the prices, in my opinion, it's only personally, but dealing with the public over 50 years, I think a little rise is better than a big one, because you can delay prices and all of a sudden you've got to put it up, wham, and it frightens, it's too much. So I think personally this be a good rise. That's only my personal view. Yeah. Councillor Clifton.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think the last representation here sums that up considerably well. He claims to be the person who sent in the application on behalf of the Tendering Taximeter Forum to start with. In there, he quotes the difference in price of diesel from when he sent in the application to now. He also highlights the fact that there are a number of running costs associated with a vehicle that have gone up in price as well. However, at the same time, he says it's a hard balance, because the majority of our service users, outside of the Christmas period and the summer periods when everyone's having a good old jolly, he goes, are pretty much the most vulnerable members of our most vulnerable residents in our area. So it's going to be a hard one for us to decide on what to do and how to push forward with this. I mean, he states in the end of it, he even has suggested to his members that they take what we said at the last meeting and then soon after that ask for a second increase. However, a lot of his members have turned around and said that the meters they have got currently installed in their vehicles will only take one more increase and won't take another one. I'm a little lost on the technical side of that, but I'm not a cabbie. So it's going to be a tough one for us to call, because a lot of cabbie members want more. At the same time, we're trying to defend our residents from paying too much. Both is an essential service to the most vulnerable residents in our area. It's going to be a tough one for us to call this one.
Just an idea, do you, on your basic fare, say from Holland to Clacton, what difference on this proposed price would it be? Could you roughly?
You're asking me a question there. I wouldn't have a clue, because I'm not a cab driver. I'm normally, as a lorry driver, I'm the designated driver. Right. Normally, I don't do the drinking. So I wouldn't have a clue. From Holland to Clacton, it's got to be...
So that would give us a better idea, wouldn't it? You know?
I don't know. I'd probably £16. £4.80.
A cab from Clacton Town Centre to Holland-on-Sea is about £4.80.
It's £3 odd by bus.
If I can just go back to the previous report from our last meeting, you got 1 mile, which currently is £4.60, and that would be going up to £4.70. 2 miles is £6.40, going up to £6.60, and then we've got 3 miles at £8.20, and that's going up to £8.50. It's 20 pence increase. Yeah.
Chairman, I don't know what we're hoping to achieve here. We have agreed what the Taxi Forum asked us for. I think we could sit here all night and come up with different permutations on what we feel it should be. I would suggest that we reiterate what we agreed and review it in, I don't know, a few months' time or whatever.
Could we have a vote on that then? Oh, yes, sorry, Councillor Anderson. Yeah.
Yes, Chairman. My concern is, and like I say, I do agree with Alan on this, I think we need to review it possibly sooner rather than later because of them stating that these aging meters. But I have got concerns because I know in certain areas we are losing taxi drivers because they can't afford to run their vehicles, they can't afford to work, which is actually putting some of our vulnerable people that rely on taxis into a vulnerable situation because they've got to earn a living, but at the same time we need as a council to be retaining them, and I don't know how we can encourage them to come forward. Is there any sort of government grants? There's lots of help for COVID situations to help them with their meters. You know, they are business people that are needing assistance, and if their aging meters are going to need changing, is this something we could perhaps, I don't know if it's countrywide or if we as a council can look at how we can assist them because they are clearly struggling. And whilst we have to move on with this increase, I think it should be something that should come back to us, as Alan was saying, perhaps within 6 months to look at again because I am concerned that we are going to be losing more drivers and not retaining the ones we've got because they're going to be struggling and our vulnerable people will be struggling because we won't have taxis to run them around. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Councillor Curry.
Yeah, just finally, Chairman, they, through their forum, asked for an increase 5 months ago. I would suggest that we get that increase that we've already discussed and agreed going so they can actually charge these slightly increased fares and then properly sit round and review it in 3 months' time.
Councillor Clifton.
Although in some ways I wouldn't disagree with what's been said by my fellow councillors here, it would seem like the logical thing to do. The only issue I take is what they've said in this one is a lot of members, they don't want a small increase now and then have to increase their fares again in so many months' time when they have to then redo their meters. In terms of time scale, how quickly could a licensing subcommittee have a face-to-face meeting with this gentleman after he's been able to go to his members, have a chat and come back to us in time for our next meeting? Is that possible?
This gentleman was actually, asked to attend this evening. That all 5 of them were asked if they'd like to come. We haven't actually had anything, no feedback to say yes or no they're coming. That was the only information we had. The only concern is if you're sort of pushing it back, having a meeting, then this fare increase certainly isn't going to go ahead for another 4 or 5 months.
Councillor,
Yeah, as Alan said there, we had, the last meeting, we agreed an increase. They've not had the increase. So we're at square one. Nothing's happened in that period of time. They're all struggling, because they are all struggling out there. We know that we're all struggling with different things. But with the price of fuel, without a shadow of a doubt, their basics there. So why we haven't just given that first increase? We could be batting on another wicket once we've got the first one there. Let's see how it's going, because it's not going down, is it? It's still rising.
Yeah.
The price. So what I'd like to say is, whatever we proposed at that last meeting, let's get that going.
Yeah.
And can I propose, and let's give them their increase and help them now. So I propose, can we do it?
Okay. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah. Chairman, I'm concerned with this delay as well, because I know we haven't had, as a licensing committee, we've had meetings cancelled because we were told there was no business. So clearly this needs to be looked into. If you as chairman have cancelled meetings saying there's no business, we could have moved this forward earlier. So I would like that looked into so we're not in this situation again. Thank you.
Councillor Clifton.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Now I am armed with the information that the people who responded to this consultation here were invited to this evening. Their attendance would have been crucial to how I would have moved forward with this. Their input would have been invaluable because, like I said, I'm not a taxi driver. I don't understand how their meters technically work and all the rest of it. Now that factor is done and dusted, they had the opportunity to have face-to-face chat with us to talk to make their case. They haven't taken that. I'm therefore inclined to agree with my colleagues and propose that we go with what we decided a few months ago and give them the increase we decided then.
So that's unanimous then, it goes through? Oh, sorry, Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chairman. Could those views be conveyed to these taxi drivers? Because I absolutely confirmed, for me, that also could have possibly made a difference. And it would have been really useful because we're not taxi drivers. They could have put their case and answered any questions that we cannot answer amongst ourselves. Could you convey to the taxi drivers that we are very disappointed that they didn't come and possibly might have reached a different decision had they been here?
So that's unanimous now then? We'll pass? Yeah. Yeah. Okay then. That's unanimous. Okay. Coming on to item 8. Report of Assistant Director Partnership A3, review of the Council draft statement of gambling policy after public consultation.
Okay, Chair. The third report is following the consultation of the draft statement of gambling policy. This can be found on pages 37 onwards. The Council is required to review and renew the statement of gambling policy every 3 years in accordance with the Gambling Act 2005. The committee agreed on the 14th of October the revised policy to go out for public consultation. I'll bring this back to you today following the consultation. We've had a couple of comments and these can be found in Appendix B of the report, pages 79 to 85. Following the comments received, minor amendments thought necessary have been added to the policy and that can be found in Appendix A. And I've highlighted these in a yellow for you. With the agreement of the committee, this needs to be considered by the Cabinet on the 25th of February and then considered and adopted by full Council on the 29th of March this year.
Any questions? Councillor Coating? No, sorry. No questions? So, can we have a vote on that it goes through to the full council? Yeah. That's unanimous, thank you. Number 9, exclusion of press and public. And number 10, miscellaneous licence subcommittee, exempt minutes, pages 85 to 90. Going back to 9, with the exclusion of press and public, the committee is asked to consider passing the following resolution, that under section 100A, bracket 4, of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and public be excluded from the meeting during consideration of agenda item 10 on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 1 of part 1 of Schedule 12A as amended of the Act. Clifton.
Yeah. Proposed that, yes.